In the quiet darkness of space, long before humans became known across the stars, there was already a strange warning carried from one alien world to another. It did not come from official books or government orders. Instead, it traveled like a rumor, spoken secretly in war rooms and whispered in schools where young alien cadets dreamed of becoming soldiers. It was a rule older than any treaty, older than any recorded history, older than the fall of great empires. And that rule was simple: never enrage the humans. No one really knew where this rule first came from. Some said it came from the old wars, where humans fought against terrible armies that were stronger and larger, yet somehow still lost. Others believed it started with explorers who met humans on alien worlds and returned with trembling voices and wide eyes. There were stories about planets that humans refused to surrender, even when completely alone. There were stories about soldiers who kept fighting after losing arms and legs, not because of madness, but because they refused to leave their friends behind. Aliens did not understand that. They had never seen such a thing. Humans were strange to the galaxy. They looked soft, compared to hard-shelled insects of the Gexer species, or the armored reptiles of the Kraken Dominion. They did not have claws like the feline Drells, or bioenergy organs like the tall Avaxi. They bled easily, broke easily, cried easily. And yet, even with all those weaknesses, they survived things that made other species run away. Where other species built small homes, humans built entire cities. Where others crossed rivers, humans crossed oceans. Where others feared the cold, humans conquered frozen worlds. Where others feared the heat, humans walked through burning deserts. No one understood how they did it. They just did. Stories about humans spread slowly at first, carried by traders and diplomats who visited Earth or human stations. They saw humans laughing loudly, fighting passionately, loving fiercely. They saw humans start wars for justice, end wars for peace, and protect family with irrational strength. Some aliens were inspired by them. Others were confused. Some were afraid. A scholar from the Avaxi once wrote in his journal, "Humans are the only species that can cry and still move forward. They feel sadness, yet they do not freeze. They feel fear, yet they still act. Their hearts break, but they still love. This makes them dangerous." That journal entry was copied many times and passed around academies who studied warfare and culture. Some called humans emotional predators. Others called them stubborn children. But deeper inside, many realized those emotional traits made humans far stronger than they seemed. But as time went on, the old rule began to fade from memory. New alien generations grew up without hearing the old stories. New political leaders did not believe ancient warnings. They thought humans were simple, predictable, maybe even weak. They pointed at human bodies, thin, soft, unarmored, and laughed. They said, "How can such creatures be dangerous? How can such fragile things bring fear?" What they did not understand was that humans did not need to be strong like beasts or armored like machines. They had something far more difficult to measure. Something hidden inside their minds and hearts. Something that no weapon scanner could detect. Something that no scientist could fully explain. Humans cared. They cared about family. They cared about friends. They cared about strangers who suffered. They cared about children who cried. They cared about promises and honor and graves and stories. They built art, music, poetry, games, jokes, dreams, and memories. They cared so much that when someone tried to destroy what they loved, they turned into something terrifying. This was the true meaning of the old rule. It did not mean, do not attack humans because they are strong. It meant, do not force humans to become stronger than they already are. For when humans were enraged, when their hearts were burning with loss and pain, they did not fight like any known species. They fought with everything: mind, body, spirit, and memory. But many forgot this lesson. They forgot the old whispers in dark rooms. They forgot the trembling diplomats. They forgot the fragments of destroyed fleets floating in silent space. Century after century passed, and the old rule became nothing more than myth. Until one day, a proud empire made a terrible mistake. They hurt someone humans loved. And when that happened, the galaxy remembered the rule very quickly: never enrage the humans, because humans did not start wars easily. But when they were forced into one, they ended it completely. Vista 12 was a world of soft green hills and sparkling rivers. From space, it looked like a jewel lost in the dark, a peaceful place where life seemed simple and quiet. Humans had settled there 100 years ago, after long negotiations with nearby alien systems. It was a small colony, not heavily armed, but full of families who loved their homes, their gardens, their schools, and each other. Children ran through open fields, laughing. Farmers worked under warm suns, teaching their children to care for the land. Engineers repaired small machines and built new homes. Life was ordinary, and ordinary life was what humans treasured most. Captain Liam Carter had lived on Vista 12 for 3 years. He was not a soldier in the way the galaxy knew soldiers. He wore a uniform, yes, but his weapons were mostly symbolic. His true role was to protect civilians, organize the colony, and ensure that people could live without fear. He had trained them in basic safety, drills, and minor defenses, but he knew the colony could not survive a serious attack. He never imagined it would have to. Peace had lasted so long. No one dared to challenge humans here. Most species assumed humans would flee or surrender if a threat came. That assumption was about to be destroyed. The first warning came as a shadow in the sky. At first, Liam thought it was a weather disturbance. Vista 12's atmosphere often created strange clouds. But the shadow grew, moving too fast, too heavy, too loud. Then the horizon lit up in fire. Ships, thick, black, and screaming with power, fell like meteors from the stars. The Valari Dominion had arrived. The Valari were predators by nature, sleek and cruel. Their eyes glowed red, their claws could crush bone, and their technology outmatched anything human engineers could dream of. They were proud, arrogant, and utterly convinced that Vista 12 was an easy target. They laughed as they descended. In their language, a sound like crackling metal, they shouted words that humans could not understand, but the meaning was clear: submit or die. Liam ran through the colony streets, heart pounding. Families screamed and ran, carrying children and whatever belongings they could grab. Buildings exploded. Smoke filled the sky. People who had only seen fire in simulations now faced it in flesh and bone. The Valari soldiers landed with terrifying precision, stepping over rubble, pushing aside humans as if they were nothing. They took prisoners. They destroyed homes. They laughed at the fear on human faces. They did not notice the fire building quietly inside them. Liam moved through the chaos, gathering survivors. His first priority was a young girl named Mia. She was hiding under the ruins of her family home, her small hands clutching a stuffed toy that was now covered in dirt and ash. Her eyes were wide with fear. She did not cry at first. Shock had frozen her. But as Liam lifted her into his arms, she whispered in a trembling voice, "Please, where is my mom?" Her words pierced him. Liam had seen loss before, but never like this. Every instinct in him told him the Valari were stronger, smarter, faster. There was no fleet coming. No help was near. The galaxy had left them alone. And yet, he could not let despair take hold. Not now. Not ever. "You're going to live," he said softly, gripping her hand. "I promise." The Valari laughed as they passed by. They did not know that humans never promised lightly. They did not understand that the anger building in Liam was not just his own. It was the anger of every parent, every sibling, every neighbor, every friend who had ever loved and lost, who had ever seen injustice. who had ever been forced into fear around them. The colony burned, but humans were already moving. Civilians ran into hiding, but not away from hope. Engineers grabbed whatever tools they could and turned them into weapons. Farmers dug trenches and laid traps. Medics ran through smoke and fire to treat the wounded, shouting orders to keep moving. Liam taught what he could, calming panicked families, giving them courage. His voice was calm, but inside, fury roared louder than the explosions. By the end of the first night, Vista 12 had lost homes, resources, and lives. But it had not lost spirit. Somewhere in the ashes, in the hearts of humans, a quiet storm began to rise. It was the storm that no alien had ever truly seen. It was human rage, human care, and human will combined. It was something old, something powerful. It was the old rule, stirring awake. The Valari believed the humans were weak. They believed fear would break them. They did not yet understand. And by dawn, the galaxy was about to witness the first mistake of the Valari Dominion. They had chosen to enrage the humans. By the second day, Vista 12 was a battlefield, but not the kind the Valari had expected. Smoke still rose from burned homes, rivers were choked with debris, and the cries of the wounded echoed through the hills. Yet humans moved quietly, carefully, almost like shadows. The Valari soldiers had assumed humans would panic, would surrender, would beg for mercy. Instead, they were beginning to notice the strange, growing fire in their enemies' eyes. Captain Liam Carter carried Mia to a temporary shelter, a small underground facility that the colony had built for emergencies. Inside, the walls were lined with medical supplies, rations, and a few simple weapons, mostly mining tools converted for defense. Mia clung to her toy, her small body trembling. She whispered, I want my mom." Liam knelt beside her, brushing dirt from her hair. "I know, Mia, I know. We'll find her. But right now, we have to stay alive. And we're going to do more than that. We're going to fight." Mia looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "Fight? But the soldiers, they're everywhere." "Yes," Liam said, his voice calm but firm. "They're everywhere. But we have something they don't understand. We have each other. And when humans fight to protect what they love, we do not stop." Outside, humans were already proving it. Farmers who had never held guns loaded traps with homemade explosives. Engineers turned tractors into armored vehicles. Children too young to fight ran messages between hiding spots, delivering supplies to those who needed them. Every adult moved with determination, moving quietly, striking quickly, vanishing before the Valari could even aim. Panic was supposed to dominate them, but something stronger had taken root: anger. And anger sharpened human instincts in ways no alien could predict. Liam coordinated the effort like a conductor, giving calm, clear orders. "Hide in the forest north of the river. Set traps on the roads. Use the power lines as alarms. Do not engage unless you have to, but if they come close, strike hard. We will survive." By midday, the Valari began to notice the pattern. Ships that were supposed to dominate were being sabotaged. Trucks carrying soldiers exploded on roads that seemed safe. Towers used for communication fell mysteriously, cutting off their signals. Each human who survived an encounter vanished into the hills, only to strike again later. The Valari commander roared orders. "Find them. Kill every human. Do not leave a single one alive." But every strike met with resistance. And every resistance left the humans unharmed, but left the Valari confused, frustrated, terrified. Liam and Mia crouched in a ruined farmhouse, listening to distant explosions. Mia's hands were clutching Liam's arm. "Will we win?" she asked, voice shaking. Liam looked out the broken window. The sky was still dark with smoke. The river shimmered, carrying reflections of fire and metal. His heart ached for the lost, for the scared, for the families torn apart. But he also felt something stronger, pride. The human spirit was alive here, more alive than he had ever seen. "Yes," he said softly. "We will win. Not because we are the strongest. Not because we are the fastest. But because we care. Because we will never let them take what we love without paying the price." That night, the humans of Vista 12 moved like ghosts through their own colony. Small groups sabotaged Valari supply lines, collapsed bridges, and set traps. Each act was quiet, precise, and devastating. One farmer named Joran, who had once only planted wheat, used a stolen Valari drone to drop explosives on a supply depot. One engineer, a young woman named Kara, hacked into a Valari ship's navigation system, sending it crashing into a hill. The Valari laughed at first, calling it luck. But by the next morning, their laughter had turned to fear. By the third day, the Valari were no longer confident. They could not understand how a small, unarmed human colony was able to fight back so effectively. Every strike from humans seemed to come from nowhere. Every loss was a lesson learned too late. Liam stood on a hill with Mia at his side, looking down at the colony. Fires burned, yes, and buildings were destroyed, but people were alive. People were fighting. People were surviving. And humans had begun to discover something dangerous about themselves. When they were pushed to the edge, when they were cornered and forced to watch the ones they loved suffer, they became unstoppable. He whispered to Mia, "This is only the beginning. They made a mistake. A terrible mistake. They have no idea what they've done." Mia looked up at him, eyes wide, and nodded. She did not fully understand yet, but she felt it. Something deep inside her was changing. Something fierce, something unbreakable. And that was exactly what the Valari had forgotten. Humans were not just flesh and bone. They were willpower. They were courage. They were love made violent when it needed to be. The galaxy had forgotten the old rule. Vista 12 would remind them. By the fourth day, Vista 12 had become a battlefield unlike any the Valari had ever imagined. The alien soldiers had come expecting to find weak, fearful humans. They had expected panic, tears, and easy surrender. Instead, they found organized resistance, fierce determination, and something deeper, anger that burned like wildfire in every human heart. Captain Leon Carter moved swiftly through the colony, checking on survivors and coordinating attacks. The humans had begun to fight not as individuals, but as a united force. Farmers carried weapons made from tools. Engineers hacked Valari systems, turning technology against its owners. Medics ran across open fields, treating the wounded and bringing them back into the fight. Even children, though too young to wield a weapon, helped in small but critical ways, carrying messages, supplying food, and keeping morale high. Every human was part of a single living organism, each heart pumping courage into the next. The Valari commander stomped through the streets, his red eyes narrowing. "Where are they hiding?" He barked at his soldiers. "These humans should be dead. Kill every one of them." But no matter how many soldiers he sent, the humans struck and vanished. Mines detonated under Valari vehicles. Roofs collapsed under sudden explosions. Supply lines burned in the night. Each human attack was clever, precise, and ruthless, but never careless. They were not killing for sport. They were defending what they loved. And that made every strike more terrifying than a fleet of STARSHIPS. Liam led a small team into the northern hills. From there, they had a clear view of the Valari encampment. Smoke rose from tents that had once housed soldiers, now reduced to ash. Supply trucks that should have been delivering weapons now lay twisted and broken. And in the center of it all, the Valari commander shouted orders, his voice rising in panic. One human soldier, a woman named Kara, had hacked into the enemy communications. "They can't coordinate," she said calmly. "They're panicking. They don't know where we'll strike next. Another soldier, Joran, smiled grimly. Good, let them panic. That's all they need to lose control. Across the colony, civilians who had never held weapons before now moved with purpose. They climbed trees to watch the enemy. They dug trenches, set alarms, and prepared traps. Their fear had been transformed into focus. Their terror had become strength. Humans had begun to understand something the Valari could not. The more they tried to break them, the stronger they became. Liam returned to the underground shelter to check on Mia. She was helping a small group of children hide and stay calm. Her eyes were no longer wide with terror. They were bright, alert, and determined. She was learning the truth every human child knew. When someone threatens what you love, fear turns into courage. And courage into action. The Valari had made a critical mistake. They thought humans were fragile. They thought humans could be bullied into submission. But humans did not respond to threats like other species. They did not flee. They did not beg. They fought. And when they fought with everything they had, not just strength, but heart. By evening, the humans had turned the battlefield into a maze of traps. Valari vehicles were overturned. Soldiers were missing, captured, or running in confusion. Fires burned in strategic places, cutting off supply routes. Liam stood on a hilltop and looked over the colony. Vista 12 was battered, scarred, and smoky, but it was alive. Every human who had survived had a story of courage to tell. Every small act of resistance had grown into a wave that no Valari soldier could stop. Tomorrow, Liam whispered to Kara, we take back the center. They will see what happens when they enrage humans. She nodded, her jaw tight, eyes shining. They will regret underestimating us. That night, under the black sky of Vista 12, humans prepared their final strikes for the next day. Fires flickered in the distance, signaling both destruction and life. For every Valari that thought they were strong, there was a human who would fight twice as hard to protect what mattered. The galaxy had long forgotten the old rule, but Vista 12 would remind it. In fire, in courage, and in unbreakable human will, the humans were no longer hiding. They were rising, and nothing could stop them now. Dawn broke over Vista 12, painting the sky with pale orange and gold. Smoke still rose from the previous day's fires, but the humans were ready. They moved silently, efficiently, without hesitation. Captain Liam Carter stood at the edge of the northern hill, watching the Valari camp in the valley below. The alien soldiers were confused, restless, and frightened. They had underestimated humans, and now that mistake was about to cost them everything. Liam turned to his team. Kara, Joran, and a group of engineers and farmers-turned-fighters were crouched beside him, faces streaked with soot, hands steady, eyes burning with determination. He spoke softly, but with authority. Today we strike. We do not wait. We do not hesitate. They think they are stronger than us. They think we are weak. Let's show them how dangerous humans can be when they fight for what they love. The humans moved like shadows through the forests, striking first at Valari supply lines. Traps detonated under armored vehicles. Explosions tore through weapons caches. Smoke and fire spread, disorienting the enemy. Every time a Valari squad attempted to regroup, they were met with ambush from humans they had considered defenseless. Every soldier that had laughed at their fear now ran from it. In the center of the Valari camp, the commander shouted orders, his voice trembling with frustration. Bring them out. Kill them all. Do not let a single human survive. But his soldiers hesitated. They had not been trained for this. They had not been taught how to fight humans who were unpredictable, relentless, and driven by something no weapon could destroy: love and care for their own. Mia, the little girl who had once hidden under rubble, ran through a safe corridor carrying messages between groups of human fighters. Her hands were small, but her heart was fierce. Each time she delivered instructions, her courage inspired others. She had learned the truth. Humans were not born only to survive. They were born to protect. And when protecting meant fighting, even the smallest among them could change the battle. By mid-morning, the humans had regained control of most of the colony's perimeter. Velari soldiers were trapped in zones they had thought secure. Fires raged, cutting off retreat. Explosions shook the ground. Humans moved through the chaos with calm precision, striking, retreating, and striking again. Liam watched from a ridge as a group of engineers tipped a fuel transport over a cliff, watching it crash and ignite. He felt no joy in destruction, only the power of human determination. The Velari commander's frustration turned to panic. His soldiers were falling back. Supplies were gone. Vehicles were destroyed. Communication lines cut. And worst of all, the humans had learned his patterns, predicting every move. He had broken the oldest rule in the galaxy, and now he was witnessing its consequences. Liam gathered his team and moved toward the center of the camp. Each step was careful but bold. They encountered soldiers, but the humans had learned to fight as one. Each small group moved together, covering each other, striking with tools, weapons, and traps. Every human acted like a force multiplier for the next. Even the wounded contributed, throwing grenades, directing others, or warning of danger. Every life mattered, every effort counted. By afternoon, the Velari commander realized the impossible. He had come to Vista 12 expecting to crush humans in hours. He had thought their fear would make them surrender. But humans did not surrender. Humans did not even pause. And now, their anger and unity were stronger than anything he had ever faced. From the ruins of his command center, Liam sent a message across the Velari network. His voice was calm, clear, and cold. Leave this world. Leave our people. You will not take what we love. You will not touch Vista 12 again. If you try, you will face every human who has ever loved, fought, and survived. And we will win. For the first time in his life, the Velari commander felt true fear. He had never experienced it before. He had faced stronger enemies, larger armies, and deadlier creatures, but never creatures who fought not for conquest, but for love. And that love was the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. As the humans advanced, the Velari began to retreat. Ships lifted off the ground, leaving behind equipment and injured soldiers. The humans did not chase them immediately. They had no need. Vista 12 was safe, and the lesson had been delivered. Captain Liam looked over the battlefield. Fires burned, smoke rose, but every human was alive. Every human had fought, survived, and protected those they loved. He knelt beside Mia, who smiled despite the dirt on her face and tears in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. Liam smiled too, though his face was tired and streaked with soot. "Yes, Mia, we did it. And the galaxy will never forget this day." From that moment on, Vista 12 was no longer just a small colony. It was a symbol of human courage, strength, and love. And the Velari Dominion had learned something that no rulebook could ever teach them. Humans were dangerous not because of their weapons, but because of their hearts. The galaxy had once forgotten the old rule. Vista 12 would remind it. Never enrage the humans. By the 6th day, Vista 12 was a world transformed. Fires still burned here and there, but the humans moved with purpose rather than panic. The colony had been scarred, yet every survivor knew something incredible had happened. They had turned the tide. The Velari Dominion, proud and cruel, was in retreat. But humans were not content to simply survive. They were determined to finish what needed to be done. Captain Liam Carter walked among the people, seeing the aftermath of human courage everywhere. Streets were littered with debris, but every corner held stories of bravery. Farmers who had never fired a weapon before had ambushed Velari squads. Engineers had disabled advanced weapons with makeshift tools. Even children had run through smoke-filled alleys to deliver messages and supplies. Every person had contributed, every life mattered, and every effort had counted. "Look at them," Liam said quietly to Kara as they surveyed the retreating enemy from a ridge. "They thought we were weak. They thought fear would break us. But humans are not broken." Kara nodded, eyes scanning the horizon. "They're panicking now. You can see it in their movements. They don't know where to strike next. They're scared." And that fear was only beginning. The Valari had underestimated one critical fact. Humans did not fight like any other species. They did not rely on numbers, technology, or brute strength alone. Humans fought with heart. They fought for family, for friends, for hope, for every small thing they loved. And when humans fought for what they loved, they became unstoppable. Liam's team moved carefully toward the center of the Valari camp. Survivors had been hiding in ruined buildings, tending the wounded, and coordinating what remained of their forces. They were small in number compared to the enemy, but strategy, courage, and precision were now their greatest weapons. Mia ran ahead, her small feet moving fast across the rough terrain. She carried food and water to families who had been trapped by fire and smoke. Her eyes were bright, alert, and fearless. Even at 12, she had learned a lesson the galaxy would remember. Humans protected what they loved, and no fear could stop them from doing so. The Valari commander called for a retreat, but it was chaotic. His soldiers ran in disorder, unsure which way to regroup. Ships lifted off unevenly, vehicles crashed into one another, and his carefully planned strategy had collapsed entirely. The humans moved with calculated precision, cutting off escape routes and forcing the enemy into corners. Every move was deliberate, every action a message. This was no ordinary fight. This was humans defending their own, and the cost of crossing them would be remembered forever. From the hill, Liam sent a broadcast over the Valari communication network. His voice was calm but unwavering. "Leave this world. Leave every human alive. If you do not, you will face every human who has ever loved, fought, and survived. This is your final warning." Across the galaxy, any species listening would have felt a chill. Humans were not loud, they were not arrogant, but their words carried weight because humans always followed through. They fought not for conquest, not for pride, but for life, for care, for love. And when they fought like that, the galaxy itself had to take notice. The Valari commander realized the truth too late. His pride, arrogance, and cruelty had blinded him. He had broken the oldest rule in the galaxy. He had enraged the humans. And now, that anger was not aimless, it was precise, calculated, and unstoppable. In the next hours, the remaining Valari forces surrendered. Humans did not gloat. They did not destroy more than necessary. They freed prisoners, treated the wounded, and secured the colony. Every human who had survived knew the truth. Their strength had never come from weapons alone. It had come from their hearts, from their love, from their refusal to bow to cruelty. Liam walked through the streets of Vista 12, seeing families reunited, children laughing despite everything they had endured, and neighbors helping neighbors rebuild what had been lost. Mia ran to him, hugging his legs tightly. "We did it," she whispered, voice trembling but strong. "Yes," Liam replied, brushing soot from her hair. "We did it. And they will never forget this. The galaxy will remember that humans protect what they love. And that makes us unstoppable." For the first time since the attack began, Liam allowed himself to breathe fully. He had seen fear, destruction, and death. He had seen loss and despair. But he had also seen courage, resilience, and love. And he knew something essential about humans. They were fragile. Yes, but their spirit, their care for others, and their willingness to fight for life made them a force no enemy could ignore. Vista 12 had survived. Humans had won. And the galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo through generations. Never enrage the humans, because humans did not just fight back, they remembered. They protected. They endured. And when they fought with everything they had. The old rule was no longer a myth. It was a warning written in the fires of Vista 12, in the courage of its people, and in the hearts of every human who had survived. Vista 12 was quiet now. The fires had burned down, leaving behind charred buildings, scorched earth, and smoke that slowly faded into the sky. But the humans of the colony moved among the ruins with purpose, rebuilding what they could, helping each other, and comforting those who had lost.